In this video, you will learn how to draw a house with linear perspective. What should you do? You'll learn how to determine the perspective center of a wall surface. You will learn how to draw a gable roof. You will learn how to give thickness to a wall surface, and you will learn how to draw a dormer. Of course, you already should know the main rules of drawing perspective, and you will need a drawing of an extensive tile floor to start with, a ruler size 30 centimeters, and a pencil with a sharp tip. So here we go. Here you can see the extended floor with quite a few tiles. When you start to draw a new tile floor, don't forget to start with using V diagonal. You can't see it here, but if you would draw a line from A through the corners of the tiles, then you will meet somewhere here, and there's V diagonal. Make sure your tiles are constructed proportionally right. That means that your tiles needs to have the same size when you see it straight from above. Once we start drawing a house, we need to start from point A, and I'm going to draw a line from point A and up, passing the horizon. So somewhere here. That's going to be my first corner of the house. The second line will be a orthogonal line to VL, of course. And we can call it the gutter line. Once we have that, we can determine the size of the first side of the house, the front side. So I'm going to draw a second vertical line. Please remember to keep the vertical lines exactly parallel and draw them with a straight angle on the horizon, please. So here we have our first wall. And secondly, we're going to determine the middle, the center of the surface by drawing two diagonals right here. And then you can see it's impossible to measure it because here's the crossing point, and that's exactly the center, because you have all learned that when you draw two diagonals in a square or in a rectangle, you will find the center point. Now, why is that important? Because we need to determine a triangle which is based and build up here. I'm going to point it out for you right now, but we will know, we would like to know where the tip will be, and the tip is always above the center of the surface, so above this point. So let's try to find the tip of our gable roof. We draw a guideline, which is red, and it should be exactly through the crossing point from here. And now we will find the top here of the gable roof. And now we divided this horizontal line, this top line, into two halves. Only in perspective, they will never be the same size. As you can see here, this part is shorter than this part, and it makes sense, of course. When you look at the floor, you can see that the tiles will become smaller the more you go into the direction of VL. Once we have found and determined the size, the height of the top of the gable roof, we can start drawing lines to finish the triangle. See? So this is our basic structure for a house with a gable roof. So let's continue. We will draw another gutter line from VR to this corner point here, just above A. We only have to determine right now where to end the house. What's the length? What's the size of the house? So 3 tiles by 3 tiles, we decide to draw a house on 3 tiles by 3 tiles. See how important those tiles are when you're going to design your houses in the future. you will always need to start with a grid on the floor. So let's continue because we want to finish the gable roof, of course. So how are we going to do it? Well, first of all, you have to realize that you need a top line of the roof, of course. And the same as all the orthogonals we have already drawn, you start drawing here to VR. And now we have to determine where does it end, this roof. So we have to draw the back side of the house, just like we did with the front. We have to find the other top line here somewhere. So let's find it. And obviously we determined the tiled floor, 3 by 3 tiles, as a floor plan for the house. So here is the back wall, and it's an open structure, and you have to keep it open whenever you start drawing your house. Even when you're going to draw more houses, keep your structure open so you can see all the guidelines you need, of course. Next step is, of course, to determine the back line to VR. So now we have a cuboid, or a cube even, and now we have to find the center of the back wall, and here we have 2 diagonals, as you can see, to determine the crossing point on the back wall. And next step is, of course, to draw a top line, the second one, which is of course parallel with the first one. That's why they have the same color. Where does it end? It ends here on this roof line, the top line of the roof. So here's the other tip of the back side of the gable roof, and we only have to start drawing now the other part. And if you think that those 2 lines here, we have here a steep line of the roof, and we have here another one, and many people think they will be parallel, but that's not true actually. So that's the reason why we really have to find this crossing point in the back wall to determine exactly where you need to have the other top. So this is the real size of the prism, as we can call it, the roof part on a cuboid. Next step is to draw a dormer on this side of the wall. Sorry, on this side of the roof, I want to have a dormer. So let's try to do that. We finished the open structure of the roof on the back part. And so next step is to draw the construction. I'm going to repeat it once more with a door. And the door is going to be the next thing you should draw. The door, we decide to put the door in the middle of the front wall, and the door is going to be 1 tile. So the width of the door is 1 tile, and we put it in the center. So we decide to stop the height of the door here, like you see, just beneath the horizon, and more or less parallel, but not exactly parallel. It should go to VL, of course, the top line here. And once we have found that, we have a door. Now you can see this is a door entrance. It's not a door yet. And they're only marking lines to determine where I want to have the entrance. As you can see, it's not exactly in the middle, but that's the illusion of the linear perspective. You can see this seems to be shorter than this part, but as we know, in reality is of course exactly in the middle. So let's finish the door. We want to give thickness to the wall to make really an entrance into the building. So what we're going to do, I'm going to first determine the thickness of the wall to start drawing a line until here from top down we can't see the inner part here because it's just beneath the horizon, but we can see the left part of the wall. So this is the size of the wall, the thickness of the wall, and we create also the entrance to the house this way. And you start determining the size of the thickness right here. So this is what you need to mark this point, and then you draw a vertical line up until you reach top of the entrance. I'm going to color it to show you and to create the illusion of really a wall. And the same I can do with the other sides here. So this seems to be very dark because there's no door. It is as if we're looking into the house, in which it's very dark. We can't distinguish anything, it's daylight, so usually it's very dark. But you could also regard this as the door. Okay, so usually the door is more behind the surface of the walls, it's more inside the wall. So this is what we call the door entrance. Okay, next thing we need to do to make it more clearly visible is to put a tone, a gray tone, to the rest of the wall, and now you can see it's really the illusion I created here of a wall with an entrance. See? Next thing is to draw the dormer. We have the roof side here, on which is the light shining, and I start drawing a line here which is parallel to the roof line here. Secondly, I'm going to determine the height of the dormer. This is going to be the side part, triangular, as you can imagine, and well, whatever you choose. I mean, I've chosen to stop here. You can go more up or more down, but this is the height I want to have. And it should be right, because when I draw a next line to VL, they should be on the same height, this point and that point. If you draw the line higher than this, you will determine the right size of this front line by drawing it through this point. From VL, you're going to do it through this point, and then forwardly going to there, and this is the end. So now we're going to determine the horizontal line of the rest of the dormer, and that's going to be the right side of the dormer, the front side, if you wish. We can also do that with the bottom line. We only have to determine where to stop the dormer, where it ends, of course. And that's what we're going to determine by first draw a line here, and the next one is there. I choose a distance a bit less than, of course, this part because it's further away. I just estimated it and made it somewhat parallel with the line we already have here, the roof line. And then finally we could draw another horizontal line from VL, and now we have determined the size, the length of the dormer. Another line down or up from there to there, and that's the structure of a dormer. So let's finish it. I color it, consequently a dark tone, dark gray color, the shadow part. It's not what you have to do, because I really want to check your lines and your guidelines whenever you start drawing the house. So the illusion of glass, and finally we have our spatial structure. This is a very basic house with a gable roof and a dormer. So you could try this yourself. First of all, you start drawing a tiled floor. Then you're going to start to draw the open structure, finding the center of the front wall and the back wall.